Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us for Meet the Orgs. This is your FastForecast coming to you tonight aboard the Anvil Carrack. If you'll notice, we are not in comm range once again, just to ensure that our interviewees feel safe and secure that we are not about to be hit by bounty hunters or pirates. We feel that it keeps everyone at ease and ensures anonymity and just a peace of mind. Gentlemen, since there are 6 of you, the format will go as such. We're going to ask you all to identify yourselves, to identify the organization, and then talk about your position in the organization. And then we'll just go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, that sounds great. Hi there. I'm Hoodlum X25. I'm the leader of Pegasus Company. We've been in org for about a year and a half now.
Next on the list?
I'm an Interstellar Bard. I'm Hood's number 2. I'm in charge of logistics for the org, so any of the support gameplay loops in Star Citizen, that's what I'm in charge of for the org. We're talking anything from refuel, repair, salvage, commerce, gameplay, all of that sort of stuff is kind of under my purview.
Alright, like I said, whole Primus of Pegasus Company. I do a lot of combat-oriented stuff, like combat training for new recruits, and basically, when I'm flying around with Hood, we're 1 and 2 when it comes to combat. Like to wingman for each other and do things like that, but yeah, that's basically what I do. Combat, flight training, and more combat.
Before we go any further, Citizen Primus, we have to ask about your choice of wardrobe tonight. What spawned you deciding to wear the prisoner garb tonight?
My official reason is it's really good for friendly fire incidences. Everyone knows not to shoot the prisoner.
We have to agree. Very well.
But,
okay, well,
yeah.
that's fair enough. Okay, we thank you.
Second reason is I just like it. But yeah.
Personally, when we did a inside interview in at Aberdeen, we found it kind of pinched in the groin area, but that's just us.
I ain't got that problem.
Okay, who else do we have?
I am Kiefer Nix. I started playing about 2 weeks ago, and I joined Pegasus Company pretty much the very same day, and I've been here ever since.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, we appreciate your time, and with all orgs, time is money, so we deeply appreciate you 5, we're the 6th, taking the time to sit down with us tonight, and especially bringing your own ship. That's fuel and maintenance, so we deeply appreciate it.
That's alright, I got a sugar daddy.
We'll hit you up for a Moby number later. Well, we have to start this with, as we always do, what is the main focus of the organization?
We have multiple focuses in the org. Originally, we started off as a combat focus group, and as I learned more about Star Citizen and the game evolved and my interests evolved, and the scope of what I want to be able to do in this game has changed, I came to realize that we needed more than just combat. We want to be self-sufficient, so that's where having logistical side of things with support, being able to run our own cargo, being able to mine, being able to go into like the medical gameplay and sciences to upgrade our own components. We want to be able to do a little bit of everything, so we don't have to rely on anyone, depending how the landscape changes with orgs coming into the game and reputations coming in and bloodbaths coming in with org wars, which is something we really want to engage in. So, ideally, in the future, we want to remain lawful to the UEE and inside of their territory and follow the laws there. And then outside of that, in the more lawless zones, we want to, not grief anyone or that, but outside of that, if it's not a law, go for it. If you're in an org and we're at war with you, prepare to have a good time, because we're going to blow you up.
It's hard to break a law if there's not a law against it.
Exactly.
Fair enough. Well, how did the organization itself form?
So that's actually kind of funny. I was looking at Star Citizen, and I'd been looking at joining it, and I wasn't really sure what it was all about and how like the ships and the sales and that worked. And finally, I mentioned it to one of my buddies, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I have that game. I've had it for a few years and I haven't touched it." And I guess he had a pledge from years ago with just like an Aurora. So I jumped into the game and bought a Super Hornet Anniversary pack. Is the first pack I actually bought. I didn't jump in at the low tier, and jumped in with a Hornet and fell in love with the game from that. And we started asking other friends if they played the game in that, and slowly we got a group of 7. And when we got to that point, the idea to form an organization started, and we started throwing around names and that until we finally came to Pegasus Company, and here we are.
Brilliant. You mentioned engaging other organizations in combat. And matter of fact, you mentioned having a combat pilot, our friend in the prisoner uniform. What are your rules of engagement?
I think currently there's less rules because, I mean, everything's just a test and alpha and that. Later on, like when we go pirating and that, actually, Primus, why don't you explain to him how we pirate now? I think that would be a better idea for our engagement.
Rules of engagement for me, basically anything goes. All up to, but not including, targeted harassment. If I see you mining out there and you don't want to give me money, I'll blow you up. If you're running a trade outfit and I can somehow get on your ship or lock you down with my mantas and you don't pay me, I'll blow you up. And this will generally evolve into people calling for help, which turns into PvP, which turns into either a really fun night of prison or not prison, or just a good night of PvP. So that's generally how the progression goes and how the rules of engagement go when I'm out doing things. But like Hood was saying, we're going to be a lawful org in the future. We're not really a pirate org. We're just embracing what gameplay we do have in the game right now, which is basically combat and a little bit of training and a little bit of mining.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I definitely like to preface that we're not a pirate org. We do engage in PvP and sometimes pirating in that, but we're more PvP oriented than griefing in that.
Yeah, when Hood's on, we usually do more like bounty hunting, and if there's no bounties to hunt, we devolve into my type of gameplay.
Which
Yeah.
is, would it be fair to say that it's not so much pirating as earning credits?
It's probably the opposite.
For me, it's more about the experience pirating. I have, like I said earlier, I have a sugar daddy. I don't need the money. I just do it for the fun, and I don't know. It works for me. It's why I'm in the game. It's what I pledge for.
Interesting. Very interesting. It's an adrenaline rush, not so much the credits. That's absolutely interesting. Well,
That's how I am for the PvP too. I'm here to fight people in that. The credits don't really matter.
y'all mentioned training. How is that something that's continuously ongoing? Do y'all have certain days you train? Do you train an individual? Your job is dogfighting. We're going to train you to dogfighting, but not mining. How does that work?
Well, if Geostat was here, he'd say he'd train mining too. He loves to go mining, but as far as I'm concerned, I usually do an event night. We'll get a bunch of people and we'll go through the basics and the more advanced stuff as I feel the group needs, and then we'll 1v1 each other or do a team fight or something like that.
Correct, because we don't want to pigeonhole anyone into one specific role, right? If someone might be interested in getting into a fighter every now and then, but then they might also be primarily interested in going out and being in a cargo hauler and running cargo. So we don't want to be one of those orgs that has someone come in and says, okay, so you're really good at X, you're really good at being a pilot in dogfighting, so that is what you do. Because it can be tough for people, particularly with the state of the game where it is right now, to pigeonhole people into one specific role, particularly those areas that aren't fully developed and fully realized yet. We have lots of folks in the org who are incredibly interested in cargo hauling, but if we told them that that's all you can do, I don't think that they would be staying in the org right now, because cargo hauling is not in a finalized place when it comes to gameplay loops in the game right now. So we train in a lot of things, in combat specifically, but we have mining events. We had a cargo hauling event last week just to see where things were and suss things out. So we try to have a little bit for everybody.
That's another important thing too. We like to try and, as things come up, like before the turret rework and the fixed weapons came in, we did an event where we tested a hammerhead that was crewed versus fighters, and then after the change came out, we did the same event and ran it again with the same rules, and tested to see the difference in that. And that stuff we'll do all the time with different parts of the game, to see where things are, how they've changed, where they're sitting, what we can do to improve, what we notice, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, several of y'all have mentioned that you do what you do not for credits but for the experience. But say you do bounty hunt or pirate or do some deliveries, and there's more than one of you doing it. What does the split look like whenever you go to divvy up the spoils?
I usually don't take a cut.
Yeah, it depends what we're doing. Normally, like, if we're doing bounty hunting or something like that involving a mission, we'll just split it however the mission splits it out.
And I'll touch on that as well, because as the guy in charge of logistics support and particularly commerce, the commerce side of the game is the side of the game that I actually really enjoy. So I am the guy that cares about the money, and I'm one of those org sugar daddies that people talk about. So for me, like Hood said, it's a lot about that. Like it comes down to what and who is investing what, particularly when you're looking at, like, say, a cargo hold, is who's investing in that hold when you're going to purchase whatever it is that you're acquiring. And like you said, largely it's been an 80% and then 20 that you divvy out.
Okay. Well, how would someone go about signing up?
There's a couple of ways to go about it. Checking out the Pegasus Company org page on the website is a good place. Or people can add me on Discord. We had our Discord up before, and we had an incident where one of our members was PvPing in the verse and met another group that got heated and came into our Discord and started posting obscene things in that. So we took down the invite link and we made it invite only. So normally what they can do is get a hold of me on Discord at hoodlumx25 #3197 and just send me a message and ask us any questions you have.
It's never fun when somebody takes things too seriously.
No, and the worst part is we didn't even know, like, this person was in the verse by themselves. They were a newer recruit, and they were killing people around PO, I guess, and the people around PO really didn't like it. So they went into the website and did some background search and seen what org he was in, and then found our page and seen the link. Like, none of the members or any of us had been involved in it or even were on at the time. It was just really sad. It was tragic, actually.
Well, couple more questions. Like we said, we've kept you quite a bit, and time is money. What are the future goals that y'all have for the organization?
That's a good question for sure.
Well, I'll touch on my side of it, and then I'm going to pass it to Bard to touch on his side, I think. So I'm more focused on the combat side. fleet battles, org wars, anything to do with that. So my long-term goals is to have a place in the verse, have our name be recognizable, have holdings and bases and fleets, and be contacted by people because they know we do a good job, we're reliable, we're good at security. Make a name for ourselves so that name gets us paid for jobs. I want to have lots of fleet wars, and those wars can then generate other things like salvage for our logistic guys and cargo and everything like that. And then I want them to be able to support us on the flip side, which brings us to Bard. What are your long-term goals?
So one of the reasons we realized that we couldn't just be a combat-oriented org and survive on our own out in the verse is that you're going to have all of these support elements coming in. And so really, one of the biggest gameplay loops I'm looking forward to coming up is refuel, and seeing what that looks like, not just in the near term in terms of refueling another vessel, but what that means for folks who are actually refueling at a station, what that means for refueling cost, what that means for claim times and claim costs on ships. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to most as we grow, is seeing how these support game loops start firming up and how that impacts other systems within the verse, things like claiming, refueling at the stations, and all of that. So as we grow, I'm looking forward to seeing things like refueling, repair, and how we can better impact the org as those gameplay loops develop.
Something to add to that too is, because we have a variety of ships as well as a fair bit of capital ships, something we've talked about now, I mean, of course we can't know until things come into the game further in that, but something we've talked about now is the cost to operate those ships versus the profit they'll make, and whether we're going to have as an org like a percentage rate, like a tax rate, that X amount of tax goes into the org to run these capital ships, and that because one person alone can't run a capital ship themselves, right? So that's something else that we're always considering, like the costs of doing things as well, not just the fun.
That's a good point. Capital ships and even sub-capital ships are expensive to fly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably our last question for tonight. Everyone has supporters and detractors. This is the part where we let y'all speak to them. If you could speak directly to them, what would you say to your supporters? What would you say to your detractors?
Well, supporters are more than welcome to join us. Even if they don't join the org, we can always use cool people in the verse to interact with. And to our detractors, I wouldn't worry about them personally. To be honest with you, I mean, you're gonna have haters no matter what you do, especially if you become a bigger org.
Yeah.
Some of that can be construed as constructive feedback, but most of it just white noise to me.
Something else you said earlier too, when you were talking about recruiting in that, and it applies to this as well, is no matter what, you'll never mesh 100% with everyone. There'll be people you get along with, and there'll be people that are kind of in the middle, and there'll be people that you'll never see eye to eye to. And part of recruiting for an org and having a group of guys and girls that play well together, and that is having people that mesh well and can get along and play together and have fun together and be a team. Just making all of that run together is an important part of it.
And I think how we respond to feedback is important as well, like Primus was saying. One of the big parts of the org that came out of early feedback that was generated in the early days of the org was this renewed push and renewed focus on the support aspects of the game, particularly with the way people play during patches and not in the middle, as Primus said, and people just being interested in different aspects of the game. And so we are definitely open to constructive feedback. If there are detractors out there who had constructive feedback, we would definitely be open to it. But like Primus said, otherwise, if it's just criticism for the criticism's sake, then we just listen to it as white noise.
Something else to consider too is in a game where everything is a test right now and everything has bugs and is broken and that, you need people testing all aspects of the game, whether that be friendly support loops, combat, or even pirating and all that. All of those systems need to be tested thoroughly and the bugs worked out. So even if you're getting upset at somebody doing XYZ thing, or you think that's not fair, or you think that's an exploit of that, those things need to be done and need to be reported so the game that we all love can be improved.
Fair enough. Well, gentlemen, once again, we thank you all for coming here. We thank you for giving us over half an hour of your time and bringing this beautiful ship. So, once again, we thank you. We know time is money. And ladies and gentlemen, this is your Fast Forecast coming to you tonight from the black. And once again, we thank you for letting us serve you. So from all of us, have a good night.